Ladies and gentlemen, here we go into game number 1 between Darkforce and EG Axslav. Both these players are going to be pitted on the map Naga Caverns to start us off.
It's going to be awesome, man. PvZ should be pretty exciting. Of course, the Naga Caverns can be a difficult map to play on, especially in this matchup. The natural's pretty wide open.
Yep.
There's a lot of attack paths. There's a lot of different entrances. And critically, both third bases are blocked in one way or another by destructible rocks. So these players are going to have to be on top of their game. Probably going to be seeing quite a lot of two-base play here.
Now, one thing to note is Axslav is looking for a little bit of blood today. After what happened last time around, his teammate got smashed.
He did, man.
What a huge upset that was.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what? Darkforce is looking really good in his EVP, and of course on this map, I'm sure he's so happy that he got Naga Caverns to start out.
Absolutely, man. As a Zerg player, you know, I mean, yeah, the natural can be a little bit more difficult to defend, but it's also easier to put pressure on your Protoss opponent. Generally speaking, Protoss players are going to be relying more on their force fields, or not force fields, excuse me, more on their SimCity than Zerg players will. You know, they might have to have more spine crawlers, but Protoss players on this map are going to have a million different buildings set up to create a good SimCity and prevent things like Zergling run-bys. So Darkforce can afford to be, I feel, hyper-aggressive on a map like this, especially if he does want to stay on two-base just a little bit longer. Taking that third obviously going to be pretty difficult. Yeah,
and, you know, we talk about this time and time again. What do you do as an opening on this map? A lot of players have actually gone like a one-base Stargate play into some sort of expansion, but you can't do the regular macro build. So many times that we see the one-gate expand or the forge expand just because of look how open that natural is.
Yep.
It's so hard to be able to actually force field and defend off. You need a ton of force fields if you want to be able to defend, but if you get a ton of force fields, it means you get a ton of sentries, which means you're probably not expanding until much later.
Yeah, you really, I feel like that Stargate opening is a really solid way to play on this map. You don't have to get a lot of Voids, a lot of Phoenixes. You just get one Void, one Phoenix. The Void Ray not only makes your expansion pretty much completely safe, it gives you a lot of map control. You can take out the Zerglings holding the Naga towers sometimes, especially on a map like this. You can deny the third because sometimes they'll send their drone around. They haven't taken out the destructible rocks yet, and then they can't get their units over to defend like their queens. And also you can use that Phoenix for scouting, but obviously you don't want to overcommit. Most Zerg players will have a pretty easy time defending heavy one Stargate airplay.
Yeah.
We do see the probe from Axslav checking out that natural, making sure he'll be able to block that expansion from coming out. But of course, Darkforce did go for a pretty standard play here. He went pool first into gas, so we'll be able to get that speed upgrade. Does have his queen already about a third of the way done. Just gonna go ahead and drop down that hatchery in a moment here. It is getting close to those 300 minerals. We'll have to see, is Axslav gonna block it? No, he's just leaving with the probe as the Zerglings appear. So that will give Darkforce just a little bit of an earlier hatchery than he might otherwise have had if it had been blocked by that pylon. And that might be bad for Axslav, but you know what? It's possible that his strategy, I mean, he's on double gas here. It's possible he's gonna go for some type of one-base strategy. Yep. And usually when you do that, you would want the hatchery to get a drop down so you can actually apply pressure to it.
Well, normally there's a big tell with the second unit coming out the gate. We currently don't see a second unit coming out right now. Oh, it's going to be a sentry. Very interesting. So this might be some sort of one-gate expand. I'm not sure. There's still a lot of possibilities. We see he has been banking a lot of gas. Could be something like Stargate. But, oh, there you go.
There it is. One-gate Stargate, man. Now we'll have to see. Is he going to add on the second gateway, even a third one to go all in off one base? I think the one-gate Stargate is the smarter way to play, the more safe and not all in. Obviously, you can take that expansion. As we were talking about the Void Ray, the Phoenix, you can take all that map control. Darkforce, you know, as a Zerg player in this situation, ZVP, you're in a lot of trouble because you really can't get that much scouting information. So you're relying on really minor tells. And if you don't have that map control, you can't leave your Zerglings outside your opponent's base. You can't leave them at the Naga towers. It's that much harder to see something like an all-in coming.
Yes.
So when you have that map control as a Protoss player, it can be very beneficial. And there we do see the second gateway go down. No third gateway, so it's just going to be most likely a two-gate Void Ray expand. But, you know, it's possible he'll actually continue making warp-gate units and go for some aggression.
You know, one of the better things to do a lot of times if you're going to go expand is actually go ahead and... Oh! Guardian Shield goes down for Axslav.
No, I've done that a million times, man. You try to hit hold position with the H and you misclick and hit the G. Oh man, that's why you actually have to change like the hotkey if you're gonna actually do that sometimes. Change the hotkey of Guardian Shield or something.
Yeah, it's a lot safer to do that.
Yeah, 75 energy to lose like that is a huge blow this early in the game.
Definitely. And we do see a couple Zerglings just going to be sharking around here, seeing what's going on. But what I was about to say is, I would have loved Axslav to actually put the pylon like we see down here, and then put the second gate somewhere over here. That way you just start the block off already for that Nexus. But the one thing that you do give up is that it's a tell. But in this situation, I mean, he is going a Void Ray, and now he's going...
Making a second Void Ray, man.
Void Ray.
Very bizarre.
Let's talk about this a little bit. I think it's pretty peculiar that this is happening.
It is. I think he's using it so he can deny the third a little bit easier. That's what he really wants to be able to do here. You generally don't need the second Void Ray just for map control, so I'm assuming he's sending it over there. He wants to really be able to deny that third, but Darkforce is playing so safe right now. He's actually taking out the rocks first instead of just sending a drone over there to make that third base, so he is going to be in a pretty good position. It looks like he did get the tell that it's probably going to be the Stargate play. I believe he saw the Void Ray. Now he's, of course, seen it if he did not, but the Spore's already done at the natural. He does have one at the main as well, so the Void Ray not going to be able to actually do damage here, but of course that will give Axslav that map control that he so desperately needs. Now the last time I saw Axslav do this build, unfortunately, he did not micro that well. He had 3 Void Rays just sitting outside his opponent's base, not really doing anything. You do remember, So, yeah, exactly. He's got to have some better micro this game. Got to be more active, because right now, Darkforce still has map control, and that's the entire purpose of this build.
See a huge counterattack, though. While the Void Rays are out and about, there's a lot of Zerglings going around here looking to deny this Nexus. The Nexus is actually being sniped down. Is he going to throw out the Force Shields at all? He can't really, else his sentries are in a lot of trouble. He goes for the cancel. Force Shields go up, and it looks like these Zerglings are going to kill one sentry, but have to get out of there. He lost a lot of Zerglings.
I think he might have actually gotten a second sentry. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe he might have. That was a pretty good engagement there for Darkforce. He denied the natural. That's all he needed to do, man. He might have lost a couple Zerglings, but who cares, man? Like, it's Zerglings. Like, it's like a couple larvae, a couple minerals. It's not such a big deal, but when you need a Protoss expansion, think about how far behind they are.
Also, look at it this way. He bought a lot of time, and through that time, his base went completely untouched, and already a Hydralisk Den is up. We can see the Evolution Chamber, of course, not upgrading anything. I would love him to upgrade something over there. But with that Hydra Den up, there are already 3 Hydras coming out, and 3 Hydras are pretty good against Void Rays, man.
Yeah, these 2 Void Rays are in the main. They're unable to really do any damage whatsoever. I believe they've only killed Zerglings by now. I could be wrong about that, but they do have 9 kills total, but of course Zerglings are going to be pretty cheap, so not going to be the biggest deal for Darkforce. We can already see him taking a food advantage. He's going to get higher and higher as this game goes on, since of course, you know, he is completely optimally saturated with those drones. I'm expecting him to go take that third base, of course. Once he feels safe with these Hydras, he just wants to make sure, of course, he does do some nice scouting with that Zerglings. Wants to make sure that Axslav is not going to go for an all-in after losing that Nexus. Instead, Axslav's going for the standard macro play, and I feel like this actually might be a little bit of a mistake, even though the all-in probably wouldn't have worked. He's just going to be so far behind in his macro, he's going to get hit by a huge Hydra timing. I don't know how he can defend.
I have no clue. He has a lot of sentries. He actually remade 3 of them after that big battle, which is okay, but it affects the tech. We can see the Robotech is so far behind already. Darkforce pushing out here with a couple of Hydras and a lot of Zerglings. He's looking to take that gold expansion, which is, in my opinion, the correct choice. But there's so much pressure that can be done. Now these Void Rays.
No,
what is going on, Axslav?
Oh, he's got to be more careful with that micro, that low APM coming back to bite him right now.
Yes.
He's got to be really careful with these Void Rays. So what I really dislike, though, about Axslav's play, you know, I feel like most of his play was pretty standard and safe, but he did not ever make that Phoenix, man. I feel like the entire strength of this Stargate play is the fact that you can get a Phoenix and scout your opponent's base. The Voiders are not as mobile, but hold that thought. The big engagement's coming. Nice force fields, isolating a lot of the Hydras, but I don't think it'll be enough. The sentries are already being target fired down. Great target firing there by Darkforce. Most of the army from Axslav is already going down. The Voiders are coming in to try to engage, but it's not going to be enough. He's just desperately trying to fall back to hold with that cannon, but it looks like Darkforce is just going to try to put on some pressure onto the buildings with these Hydras. He doesn't have the Zerglings reinforcements, though, so he's got to be careful and not get caught off guard by some force fields.
Yeah, looks like here's the big engagement that's going to go down. It looks like these Hydras doing just way too much damage, killing the sentries, killing the stalkers, and just bearing down on the rest of the EC units. Looks like the final sentry does go down. These Hydras still doing a mess of damage. It looks like Axslav is just losing control of this game.
It definitely does, although Darkforce got to be more careful with his micro. He's taking a lot of cannon hits on those Hydras. He's starting to lose that Hydra count, but he does, I mean, it is bad for him to lose this Hydra count, but it's not that big of a deal since his third is on the way. Darkforce has such a huge advantage right now. It's 103 food to 64 food, so while Axslav is barely staying alive here, it's just by the skin of his teeth. These Stalkers are so low on HP, they're being taken out. The Hydras are just so efficient versus Stalkers, especially when they don't have upgrades. These Stalkers are at 0-0, but +1 is about 15 seconds from completion. If Axslav can get that complete, no. GG is called. Game 1 is going to go to Darkforce.
And we saw Darkforce just dismantle his opponent. That game, Axslav, a lot of different critical things, but the biggest of all is the fact that he kept going a lot of gas-intensive units, not taking up to defend against something like Hydras. You know your opponent is going Hydra. Still, he actually got a third Void Ray. That was like my big, like, what the heck are you doing, Axslav? Because, again, it's delaying his Robotech or delaying something that'll let him handle those Hydras, whether it's the heavy Stalker count and you just utilize the chokes and the force shields or something. But everything didn't speak to defending against Hydralisk, and that really hurt him. Obviously, we saw Darkforce just walk over his opponent with Hydras rallied from off creep, rallied from across the map.
Yeah, they were just kind of trekking across. It was like the Appalachian Trail, man, just walking all the way down there. But you know what? I feel like Axslav, I've seen him do this build a couple times now, and so clearly I think he likes the build, but I think he needs to work on it. That build just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Really, the fact that you're going for 3 Void Rays, first off, that's a huge investment. Think about the fact that a Void Ray costs 250 minerals and 150 gas. So that's an insane investment. 750, 450 for those 3 Void Rays. That's unbelievable. And when you don't do any damage whatsoever with them, it makes it a complete waste.
Especially when you're on 1 base or 2 gas for so long. Remember that natural was denied by the Zerglings.
That's another important point, man.
That makes gas even more of a limiting factor. You have to be able to allocate that gas accurately. We didn't see that from Axslav, and he paid dearly.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to use that build a little bit better, first off, keep at least 1 Void Ray at home so you can try to help defend against some type of Zergling attack like that. Because that's the benefit of that expansion, is that it makes your expand safe with the Void Ray. But he kept them all at his opponent's base because he needed them for scouting. Remember, he didn't make the Phoenix. So if he had gone 1 Void Ray, 1 Phoenix, sent the Phoenix in to scout, and just had the Void Ray at home defending, he wouldn't have lost the Nexus. He could have safely force fielded it and known his sentries would be a little bit safer there. Also, yet again, what you were talking about early on with the setting up the second gateway down there, that would have helped out as well.
For sure.
But unfortunately, it just seemed like everything together that Axslav was doing, every part of his play was geared towards denying a third base from Darkforce. But that's just kind of blindly hoping your opponent's going to go for a quick third. And if they don't, it's not going to work out for you.
Correct. And we saw Axslav, of course, lose game number 1. We're going to game number 2. It's going to be on the map NASL Crevasse. Join us there. We'll be back after this break.